Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Naruto Shippuden episode review. This one's going to be for episode 493, Shikamaru's Story Part 5, Dawn, the final part of this arc. Link to watch the episode if you haven't seen it yet is in the description, but let's get into the review. So, overall I'd say this was a fine, if a little underwhelming ending to this arc. And the reason I say that is because I think fundamentally, it's based on obviously the book Shikamaru's Story. And I feel coming out of this arc, I'm not really sure what Shikamaru's character arc was in this book, in this series of episodes. I don't feel there was a through line throughout all the episodes of really what Shikamaru was trying to accomplish here. What the end of this showed him as a character. Was it just that he can rely on his friends, he doesn't need to hold things back and tell anyone everything? Was it that he was sort of changing for the worse, and the fact that he hadn't been saying what a drag was going against who he is as a character, and that's actually an important thing for him? They sort of managed to bring it together just with the kind of idea of Shikamaru ultimately says, he's kind of trying to fight for a world where even people like him who think everything is a drag can kind of do what they want, basically. So that's something. But I think just these 5 episodes overall, trying to kind of really point out Shikamaru, what did he learn based off this book, off this series of episodes. It's a little bit tricky in that it's very subtle, the kind of development he goes through. Obviously by the end he asks Temari out on a date, and that's a big moment, and that was a very fun scene. That was probably, in many ways, kind of what everyone in the fandom was kind of looking for from these episodes. It's just, get to the moment where finally we commit to Temari and Shikamaru as a couple. And it was very well done because you mixed it in with Sai and Ino and their development into a relationship. And it made for, some fun shipping stuff, which we don't see too much in the show. And it actually works quite well when they do a little bit of that. Because there is a shipping fandom to Naruto, and even though it's not the focus of the actual content, when we do get it, it is very fun. And I'll talk about that more towards the end as we go into the next arc. But anyway, we'll stick to this. We obviously square off immediately at the start of this episode with the fights. Temari fights Soku, Choji fights Ro, and then Sai fights, Ino fights Sai. And the whole aim obviously is that they know that they're kind of brainwashed and they don't actually believe what they're saying, so they have to defeat them without kind of full on injuring them. And with Choji's fight is cool, he uses some of his expansion jutsu. You have Ro kind of get a one up on Choji using his kind of chakra blocking abilities, that he can make Choji misinterpret what his chakra levels are like. Soku just is obviously dangerous. If you don't dodge her attacks, she's going to get you, but Temari handles Soku fairly fine in the end and kind of knocks her out. Choji knocks Ro out. The Sai Ino stuff I think could have used a little bit more time, but I liked ultimately what we got here, because in many ways that one scene of Ino talking to Sai and then using the mind transmission jutsu to get inside his mind and kind of understand him a bit better and show their connection, that will probably be the most memorable moment from the episode. That and the Shikamaru asking Temari out on a date moment. They'll be the moments that are remembered from this arc, not necessarily the stuff to do with Gengo or anything like that. So I felt that when they finally went for it, I really did like the Ino and Sai stuff. Could use a little bit more time, as I said, but it was interesting because they did establish this idea of Ino always has had a crush on Sai. That the first time she met him, it was clear that she was attracted to him, and it's clear that stayed basically up until now. And admittedly, they explain it a bit better in the book, in that you get some of Ino's inner dialogue, in that she kind of wants to understand Sai and why he is the way he is, in terms of the way he is with his emotions, and that he's always holding back a bit. He maybe doesn't feel properly like part of the group. The fact that everyone knows him for his kind of fake smile, and she wants to know why he does that, and if she can make him smile properly, which she ends up doing in this episode. The fact that he comes up at the end and calls her beautiful, honestly this time, instead of the whole thing where he says like, say the opposite of what you think to kind of get someone on your side. But that was nice. Just the fact that Sai, being the one who doesn't understand kind of a lot of human interaction type stuff all that well, for him to just be the one that's actually the most cool, calm, and collected when it comes to the romance stuff here was actually interesting, because Shikamaru was just like, oh, how do I approach doing this? You know, do you want to go out? Whereas I kind of like that Sai was just like, thanks for saving me. I want to make it up to you. Let's go somewhere. And Ino was the one freaking out about the fact that she was asked out on a date. And even Tamari, to some degree, even though she was kind of calm about the whole thing when Shikamaru was asking her, you could still tell to a certain degree that she's not the most comfortable in those situations, but it was Shikamaru and she does actually like him. So again, like, it comes back to the fact that, you know, we're at a point now with our characters, they're old enough now that it makes sense in a relative era of peace that you actually do start to develop these relationships. And so those are the moments that stand out to, I think, the majority of people. And it's one of those things where, as I see new manga series come out and stuff like that, and they continue to commit to the idea of like the main character always being like very, very oblivious to romance. Like, why don't you just commit to a romance like earlier on in the series and see where it goes? Like, I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people like Sword Art Online so much, and that they just commit to a romance and it's there, and it adds to characters because they're in a romance together. They don't have to emphasize romance stuff all the time, but just knowing the fact that these two characters have a connection that is more than just friends makes it so much more interesting, in that now that you've kind of gotten past that initial hurdle with Tamari and Shikamaru, with Ino and Sai, the interactions of those characters when they're on screen together now is so much more interesting, because Ino and Sai are suddenly like this new dynamic that we don't know a ton about, and it's going to be fun to see every time they're on screen together. Similarly with Tamari and Shikamaru, now that the idea of them properly being in a relationship has come out, that's going to be interesting to see how the kind of more obvious romance stuff comes out with them. I liked kind of ending it with Ro and Soku kind of saying to Shikamaru, like, you may think that this is just going to be a date and it's going to be fun, but you need strategies for this thing. Like, you need three countermeasures in case something goes wrong. Prepare for the weather. You need stories for small talk. This needs to go perfectly. And the idea basically being that, like, Shikamaru thought, well, it's not going to be a drag to go on a date. But even Tamari is just like, it might be a drag to go on a date with me. And he's kind of like, this is going to be a lot of work to just go on a date with someone. So they had some fun with the romance stuff at the end, which I did appreciate. I think one of the most disappointing parts of this episode, though, getting back to the kind of more plot-focused stuff, was I think just how they dealt with Gengo in the end. I like them trying to bring in the connection to Zabuza and stuff like that, which is covered in the book. But it just felt very kind of thrown in last minute, and like we didn't fully understand the full extent of like what it actually meant for him as a character. And that, like, okay, you helped Zabuza, you kind of betrayed him to some degree, so he became a rogue shinobi, and then you went off and established this group. Okay, like that's great to say, like just like minutes before you're about to be defeated. I like the idea that in the end they finally committed to fully revealing to us the idea that he laces chakra through his tongue to add kind of genjutsu power to his words, and that's exactly what was happening here. The one kind of notable Shikamaru kind of character thing of him kind of having to talk to the things he maybe doesn't want to fully address all the time with himself, that he has younger Shikamaru there talking about how, you know, I'm a kind of failure as a leader because of me, they all got injured because of this, I need to be better. And him just kind of saying, like, I suppose showing the fact that he is more adult now and kind of accepting the fact that, like, no, like, it'll happen over time. I know it's a drag to be a leader, but it'll happen eventually. You know, you have your friends there to back you up. They wanted to do this. As much as you are important as the leader, it's not all on you as the leader. The other people will help you and so on. So that was nice, just as a way to kind of, like, he completely breaks through the genjutsu. Gengo's words cannot affect him at any point, and then he's fully defeated just because Soku hits him with her attack on his tongue, and so he can't actually lace chakra through his tongue anymore, and that takes away all of his powers. They don't need to kill Gengo. It's no longer an assassination mission, and because of that, it falls apart. Because without his words to control everyone, he doesn't actually have any comrades. Because the tragic thing about him is that even though he has this group that is all about keeping shinobi alive forever, and so that shinobis will always have a place, he didn't actually have any true comrades of his own, because he had controlled everyone and then killed everyone who went against him. So, interesting stuff, but like it's just like everything thrown in kind of last minute to kind of complete the arc. So that was that. You had with Shikamaru another nice moment where he kind of talking to Naruto, and Naruto just saying ramen to him is kind of what fully gets through to him that he can break out of the kind of genjutsu. So yeah, it's one of those things where like there are a few really nice moments in the episode. The ones where they reference the romance between Temari and Shikamaru. Temari had some nice moments as well. Her talk with Gaara, and kind of Gaara talking about how important Shikamaru is to the alliance, and kind of basically saying, Temari, you go do something, and her kind of Temari clearly being able to even intimidate Kakashi to the point where he'll reveal to her where Shikamaru is, was nice. Because I think when they talked earlier on, I think it was like the first episode of this arc, after Temari slapped him, I think Kakashi got the sense of like this is a kind of blossoming relationship. So if they ever address that again, like with those two, like what exactly is going on, I'd like that to happen. But yeah, the standout moments are Sai and how they did that. Just I suppose Sai crying, which we haven't really seen, and basically saying like, no, I'm here. I'm not here because my friend. In terms of I'm talking about Shikamaru, I'm talking about you, and that gets through to him. And then in Sai's mind, Sai kind of feels like he's lonely. That even though Gengo preyed on this weakness within him, Sai honestly did feel like he maybe wasn't part of the Leaf Village group with everyone, Hinata, Shikamaru, Naruto, everyone. But kind of hugging him in that moment, that like he is part of the group, and there is a closeness now between those two that when he thanks her for like, I really felt your kindness, it kind of showed him that like, oh, here's someone who's going to be very close with me as part of our group. So, I suppose as we go into the wedding arc next, I hope we get more development on both of those relationships, Temari and Shikamaru, as well as Ino and Sai. But I just want to end with some kind of thoughts heading into the wedding arc. Obviously, the thing with this arc is that the book isn't Naruto and Hinata Hiden. It's Konoha Hiden. The focus is basically on how the rest of the people react to Naruto and Hinata's wedding, them buying gifts for that wedding, rather than actually focusing on Naruto and Hinata themselves. Now, I think for most people, this is one of those things where pretty much everyone would want Studio Pierrot to do more with this arc and actually include Naruto and Hinata to some degree. It's going to be really frustrating if this is like a 5-6 episode arc or something like that, and we get to the end and we don't see any more about the wedding or get any more information about the wedding. Because really Hinata and Naruto haven't really been in this arc all that much, so it's been very frustrating to kind of deal with this. The fact that they're like the key kind of two, and that they're in a relationship and getting very close to getting married, engaged, and like we haven't seen all of that stuff happen. So we really want to see that. Like we obviously know from the last how they got together as a couple, but we want to see like the proposal and stuff like that. We want to see all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be frustrating if they do stick really heavily to the canon of the story and just don't show any Naruto and Hinata and just emphasize everyone else buying gifts. That's going to be fun because we get to see more of the characters. Like we're going to get to see Lee and Tenten for the first time. I suppose more emphasis on like Kiba and Shino and stuff like that. But what we really want is like some Naruto Hinata. Even if we have to wait until the very end of the arc and maybe see a little bit more of the wedding at that point as a way to... because as far as we're aware, the last episode of the wedding arc is going to be the last episode of Naruto Shippuden. And I think ending by showing a little bit more of Naruto and Hinata's wedding, and maybe that being some sort of transition into like the last episode of the wedding arc is kind of also an adaptation of like 700 as well, as we kind of transition into that chapter 700. that would be a really cool way to end Shippuden and start the Boruto anime. But that's that. So yeah, final thoughts on the Shikamaru arc are just that basically I'd say if you watch the anime and were like interested in the arc but maybe a little bit let down, I'd say get the book. The book goes in a little bit more depth on some stuff. It doesn't have as much depth in others. So basically combined the anime and the book, you get everything in that. I'd say the only thing the book is slightly weak on is Ro and Soku aren't developed all that much, but the anime basically covers that. And then if you want more Shikamaru stuff, a little bit more on Ino and Sai and stuff like that, more depth on the villains, the book is the way to go. So, you know, it's out in English, it's out in Japanese if you want it that way. That's the way to go. So, yeah, just going to end the video there. So, thanks for watching, and bye.